We'll start with Joey on the left.
Ryan, how do you feel you did what you wanted to accomplish coming out of spring here, even with the weather and all that?
Yeah, first off, I just want to say thank you to the fans for coming out. I know the forecast wasn't great, and it started raining sideways at one point, but you know, a lot of them stayed out there, and it just goes to show you the support that we have means a lot to us, and so that was great. You know, I know spring games across the country, have been kind of dwindling. We wanted to make sure we did that. We have more players this spring than we've ever had. So it was great to see some of those guys get out there and see how they respond. And like typically what happens when they're out there for the first time, you see some wild things and then they kind of settle down a little bit. But we were down some bodies, obviously, at running back and some of the offensive line. So, and we wanted to get, obviously, Jeremiah and Brandon out of there pretty early. So, it was good to get out there. We'll look at the film, and it'll be another piece of the evaluation going into the summer.
Bill on the left.
Yeah, one guy who seemed to stand out was Tavian. I know he had kind of a bit of a rough practice yesterday. What were your impressions of him, and how comfortable do you feel going into the summer with him as your backup?
Well, being a quarterback at Ohio State is not easy, as you know, and he's battling every day. I think you can see the talent for sure. Threw some really nice balls down the field, and then obviously missed some as well, and some of the drives got stymied, but that's part of it, and he's got to learn from those things and can continue to grow. He's been showing up every day with a good attitude, and that's important. So I think we all can see the talent. That's why he was recruited here, and he's got to continue to grind to learn how to run the offense at a high level because he's going to be an important part of this team. You need to build depth at every position, and so we all know how important quarterback is.
Ryan, do you have any kind of update on Earl Little Jr.? We didn't see him out there yesterday or today.
Yeah, similar to the other guys. He had a procedure on his knee, cleaning something up, and so he'll be back here in a few weeks. But again, just some of these things that this time of year, it's the right time to get them done so that they get put behind us. As much as we'd love to see him continue to evolve with the defense, but he certainly flashed early, but then. Had a little bit of a setback, and we wanted to make sure we took care of that so that we has a full summer.
We're going to do two more. Steven and then
Ryan, obviously with some of the guys missing on the offensive line, it seems like Julian had to do a lot more problem solving this year. What have you thought about his development with his legs and just being maybe more of a playmaker?
Well, it's hard when he's not live, and we weren't not going to make him live today. But it's been an emphasis point, and you can see that he's aware of that and looking to do some of that. And we did have a bad ball for a turnover, and so that could ruin your whole day. All it takes is one play. So he knows how important that is. But it was good to see him move around out there and make some. I don't know what would have happened on the first drive. That would have been a pretty big collision right there between he and Peyton, I think. But he was moving well, and he's moved well this spring. But certainly it's a lot different when you're live, and so that's going to be the challenge for him all summer to continue to work on pocket presence and then making plays with his legs.
Yeah, he did get a touchdown running, though, so there's a whatever. But just what's your sense of the defense leaving here out of spring? Ryan, with a couple guys y'all brought in and stuff, you were talking about Earl Little Jr., but what's your sense of this group?
I think we're still a work in progress in all three phases. And this summer we all need to really focus on getting better individually. And that's what comes after the spring is identifying the things we did well that we have to get better at, but the things we need to get better at. And that starts individually. Each guy is in a race to get better. I just told the team that. Then also we need to build the chemistry in all three phases, offense, defense, special team. Then the last piece is everybody coming together as a team for one common purpose. So this is a big summer for us. I think we're off to a good solid start, but with 50 new players, we got a lot of work to do. That's not. I don't think we're behind where I thought we'd be right now, but we all know that where we are with some of these new players and some of the guys we had to replace, it's going to be a process. And so we're a race against time.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All right.
Kenyatta saw a lot of guys rotating in along the defensive line kind of throughout this spring, right, whether it be first team or second team. Just what do you think about the depth that you guys have at that unit and some guys that have come along as the spring has rolled along?
I think it's pretty good. Since I've been here, probably since my freshman year, we didn't have that much depth over the years, and we finally got those pieces, and it's time to just put them all together.
Kenyatta, where have you seen growth from Bo Atkinson when you've been out there with him? Feels like he's a lot more comfortable, maybe flexible than a year ago.
Yeah, he took his mobility and his flexibility serious over the offseason. And then just his, I believe, my opinion, he was overthinking a lot when he got in last year, and I don't think he's overthinking now. I mean, he's playing much faster and more explosive, so that's one aspect of his game that he done grew from.
Anything else for Kenyatta, guys? Yeah. We'll go Tim, and then Dan, and we'll wrap up.
Yeah, Kenyatta, you just defensively overall, what's your sense of where this team is in terms of progress from the beginning of spring to the end? We got to talk to you at the beginning and stuff. Who did you see kind of really step up and take the bit, so to speak, as this went along?
I mean, the guys that came back, myself, Jermaine, Peyton, Jalen McClain, and some other guys, we took that leadership role. Some of the new transfers, I'll say John, James, Q, even some of the freshmen like Kari Wilder and, Emmanuel Ruffin and all those guys. I mean, they bought into the program. In the beginning, it was real rough. 51 new players coming to the program. It was real rough. Try to, lead by example and teach those guys the standard of Ohio State football. But, I mean, now in spring ball, I think we're in a good place. Now, like I said before, just trying to put all those pieces, together.
We'll finish with Dan on the left.
Yeah, for going against this offensive line all spring, obviously the depth's been tested there a bit this spring. Just where do you feel like those guys are at, and where can they take the next step going into the summer?
I mean, obviously we had, our 2 starting tackles and a couple other guys out, but I mean, those guys got depth too. Carter Lowe, even the freshmen that's stepping into the second group. I mean, we're going against good on good. When you come to Ohio State, you're playing against the best. So it's good on good football each and every day, and I think those guys took a step forward after spring. So
Thanks, Kenyatta.
thank you.
Hey, Julian, up there. We'll start with Bill on the left.
You weren't throwing to Chris Henry today, but you've obviously done it this spring. What are your impressions of his development as the spring has gone on?
Yeah, I think he's done a really good job. He's a big, tall, fast receiver, can make great plays, and I think you saw a couple today. He had some great plays today, and I think he's done a good job of developing in the program, and I think he's got a bright future.
Cameron.
Julian, we saw you had the touchdown run, so you scrambled a couple more times. How much has that been a focus for you this spring? And then in what ways can you practice that without being live? Because I've assumed you and Peyton would have had a pretty nice hit there at the goal line.
Yeah, me and Peyton, we're good buddies, so we talk about that one for sure. But I think just kind of like what Coach said, having the pocket presence and having the internal clock in your head of when to escape and when do we need to extend plays with our legs. Hey, if it's man coverage here, nobody's else got the quarterback, so take off and go make the play. So I think just having that awareness and trying to keep developing that is something that I've worked on this spring.
If you were coming to the goal line there and he wasn't slowing up and you had to put your shoulder down, how does that hit end up? What happens on that play?
Oh, 100% I'm scoring. As a quarterback, you have to, there's going to be moments where you have to drop your shoulder and, go and, go get the first down, go get the touchdown for the team. And, that's part of being a leader, and that's part of being, a tough leader.
Out of the spring, what directive do you think you'll get from, whether it's Ryan or Billy Pessler, what kind of directives do you think you'll get to where you have to take a next step before you get into fall camp?
What do you mean by that question?
Just like the things that you have to get better at.
The things I can improve on? I think, I think I can improve on a lot. I think, pocket presence and kind of that, still working that ability to escape and, just extending plays and, giving us more chances on offense. And then, I think still working on that leadership role too. I think I can grow there as well. I think with the leadership, there's no such thing as a vocal leader. So you really have to, take control of those guys. And it starts with a connection. You have to be, a great teammate, and you have to get to know these guys. And so I think it's been fun this spring to get to know those guys.
We'll do 2 more, Robin and Joe.
Yeah, Julian, obviously you're starting now, but you've been a backup. What did you think of Tavian's performance, and how do you mentor him, and how do you get inside that head of his? Yeah,
I think the quarterback room we have right now, it's gotten very close over the past few months, and it's been fun to see. And I've been with Tavian. He was here last year as well, so we have a really good connection. And we watch film together. We do hang out outside, so it's been great. I think he's done a good job this spring of developing and taking that next step.
All right, that'll wrap us up. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.